Call this regular meeting of the City Council to order. Could I have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Elliott?
Here.
Councilmember Rogie?
Here.
Councilmember Sandal? Mayor Gotell is absent this evening, so Mayor Pro Tem Fitzhenry.
Here.
I'll make a motion to excuse the mayor for absence tonight.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none. Motion passed. Do we have anybody for the open forum? Okay, then we'll all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I'll ask for approval of the minutes of the special council meeting of September 5th, 2012, special city council work session of September 11th, 2012, and the regular city council meeting of September 11th of 2012.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Council discussion. I'll start with Pat on his end.
Oh, thank you. One discussion matter, and I think that it's relevant to the 4th of July and some of the talk that's been around town the last couple of days in regards to the city manager's Devich memo that got picked up by the press and talked about. And I had an opportunity to talk to a reporter over the weekend and indicated that there's a significant amount of information still that's going to come our way, and it's going to be evaluated and weighed. And also there's been some concern about that there may be a move afoot to cancel the whole celebration and everything. This is one part of it, and it's entitled to some discussion, and we need to do evaluation. And the reality is, we still got 1 year left on the contract, so we've got plenty of time to weigh the pros and cons and make a determination that's going to be the benefit to the city at wide. So I just wanted to pass that on because I know there's been some Facebook talk about it and some other communications. So I think that's important. And in regards to hats off, I'm not going to belabor the point. I think that Patch, Sun Current, and everyone else is familiar with how great the Closed Street Festival was and the number of people, and I hope everybody had an opportunity to go and enjoy it because I did. I was there 2 or 3 hours, and it was just wonderful to see the people, the exhibits, the farmers market, the crafts, the bicycles. I mean, it was amazing. So hopefully we can renew our efforts and have something similar next year and make it even bigger and better.
Fred, do you have anything?
I'd just like to add to what Pat said about 4th of July. I think two things happened. I think the memo was one thing that made us think about it, but and then I brought up the fact that during the budget talks that I want us to be sure that if we don't have a carnival, that we make sure that we do some kind of funding to the 4th of July committee so that people don't think that this is going to be a way of shutting down our 4th of July. It's something that everybody expects and wants. And the pennies on a home that it would cost to take it out of the budget would be appropriate. And the reason I bring this up is because I had a conversation with we got an email, all the council members, and I think you probably saw it from Randy DeWitt from the Carnival Association. I asked him why he got involved in notifying Richfield about his thoughts on this, and it's because he's involved in carnivals. But I said, I don't think you understand what our concerns are. Our concerns are that we have a lot of people coming from other areas than Richfield to these carnivals, and we've had problems before, and we want to put a stop to the problems. And this is not about getting rid of a carnival. I mean, it's not about getting rid of 4th of July and all those other things. So I, too, agree that we need to look at this. I told him to contact you, Steve, and our police chief, because he didn't understand what our concerns were. He thought we just didn't want the carnival, period, for no reason, I think, in effect. And anyway, one other thing I want to talk about is I visited the skate park today with my dog, or my son's dog, and it came out really nice. It looks beautiful. I hope the people who use it will respect it. But I had a conversation with you about bikes being used on it, and to my dismay today, I went over there and with the dog, and was talking to the guys, the ones that like it were there, I was talking to them. And then I went down to the west side and I looked at the sign that had been put up for what the rules are. And about half the rules were being violated while I was there. There was cigarette boxes laying on the ground. It said no smoking on the signs. I know that kids smoke. That's a reality. I'm not naive enough to think that's not going to happen. But one of the things that bothers me is it says right on the sign, the first thing on the sign, it says bikes are allowed. So we seem to be on two different pages of what we built. I thought we built a skate park. So that's one thing. The second or third rule, it says that all users will be wearing helmets, knee pads, and elbow pads, and not one person there today had any of that. And I've been over there before, and they've never had that. So we have people jumping bikes off of concrete, and they aren't riding with helmets either. I mean, if we're going to allow them, I'm worried about what the liability issues are going to be there, like I talked to you about it. And then I'm an adult, a senior citizen, and I heard the F-bomb twice within 5 feet of me, directed at somebody else the first time, and then when a girl who was there said, "Don't swear," to him, he let it come right back at her. So I think we want them to maintain this thing themselves. I told you before, I don't believe that'll happen, and I think we're going to have to come up with some idea to make sure that it does happen. Maybe that's with using Roger as a go-between. I don't know. I mean, he was the most diehard person involved in this and getting it. I don't know that that's going to work, but I don't think we can just walk away now that it's been built and just hope that they do the things, because I only live a block away. It's easy for me to walk by there, or I drive by there probably 10 times a day. So I see what's going on where maybe a lot of people don't.
City Manager.
Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council. Yeah, we had a discussion, and I've talked to Recreation Director Toppitzofer about the issues, and we're going to get back and talk about it. Yeah, that was primarily to be a skate park, but apparently, and I'm having Jim research this, that most other grade 1, class 1 skate parks also allow bicycles on it. I have a concern, basically, because part of my background here stems from back in the days when I was the HR manager and the risk manager.
Right.
I have a real issue with people using that without proper protective gear. And that's something that I'm talking to Jim Toppitzofer about. I also have a real concern about, we talked about when we first built that park, that's in the middle of a large community park, and that people using that facility were going to have to be respectful of the folks around there. And from your conversation here, from another conversation I had with you, obviously that's not happening. And we're going to have to address that, because that just can't go on either. So we're looking at it, and we'll do something with it. Yeah, I'm disappointed as well.
Sue, did you have any?
I was just going to comment. I had driven by the skate park probably 3 times in the last week, and every time there were lots of kids.
Lots of kids. Yeah.
So I think that's a real plus for the community. I think, there's probably some kinks to work out, but we'll work them out. We generally do. So.
Okay, and I just wanted to comment on Penn Fest. I thought it was great. I get to ride the motorcycle again, but it was actually so crowded, it was difficult to ride the motorcycle through there because of all the people involved. But I thought the car show was great. A lot of people came out and checked out things. What I liked is the exchange between people. They were all shaking hands. They hadn't seen each other. It was kind of like our street dance over there, where everybody meets up with everyone. And I was going to ask the city manager, I don't know if you're able to comment, though, but we saw a little blurb about, we talked about our donations or to the different organizations. There was something in the paper. I wonder if you could update us on that.
Sure. Again, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council. And I've sent some emails off to council members in the past week and a half or so about this, but when we had our audit, and the audit finding came out, they happened to pull one payment that we made to a social service agency, and they made a finding that there wasn't statutory authority or charter authority to make those donations. I think what happened is, in the process of the auditors doing that, there was some miscommunication between the auditors and our folks here at City Hall, because as I started to think about it after, and I talked to some other cities, they were doing the exact same thing with service agreements. Now, you can have service agreements to donate, to buy service, I shouldn't say donate, to buy services from organizations that are performing a service that the city could otherwise provide itself. And, you know, in that regard, several of the organizations that we have paid funding to for services are ones that fit in that category. I would agree that there's a few of them that probably don't, and actually the other day, City Attorney Corrine Heine and I sat down and went through each one of these one by one, and really discussed it kind of 360 as to whether or not it would fit within a very conservative interpretation of whether you could do it or not. Again, in the meantime, I got some service contracts from some other communities, and frankly, I think ours are better. And so to that end, I also called the auditor last Friday or Thursday, I can't remember, and said that in looking at that, I'm not agreeing with the finding now that I've pulled up all this information. And so the next step is for Corrine and I to sit down with the auditor, because I have a pretty strong feeling right now, and I think, you know, Corrine can comment on this if she wants to, that there are a number of those organizations that we contributed to funding for services that absolutely are perfectly within our purview to make. And I'm going to take, again, and go through that with the auditor and with Corrine, and I'll make a report back to the City Council. But it seems to me, in looking at it, that the overwhelming majority of the ones that we've given to in the past are ones that I believe, with the kind of service contract that we have, we could continue to make those kinds of purchases from. There is another issue that's also out there, and that's Hennepin South Services Collaborative, which basically has dissolved in the part that's related to the city of Richfield, Bloomington, and Eden Prairie. The money we were providing to them was for planning, really planning services, and I really felt that we weren't getting much in the way of planning services, and so between the city manager of Bloomington and myself, we basically pushed to dissolve that part of HSSC. And so that Hennepin South Services Collaborative. And so part of that was that we made about a $25,000 or $26,000 purchase of that service each year with HSSC. Only half of that money was paid for 2012, and the budget contains $0 for 2013. But beyond that, there are some residual assets that are sitting with HSSC, and some of them are in cash. And right now we're going through the joint powers agreement and looking at really who those cash assets belong to. My belief is that they belong to the cities of Richfield, Bloomington, and Eden Prairie, and maybe there's some other entities that have contributed in the past that have some part of it, but I believe the majority belongs to us. And so I'm hoping to get that resolved sometime in the next maybe several weeks, and report to the City Council as to how much money we might be getting back out of that. So to make a long story short, I will be coming back to the City Council with a council memo saying which of these organizations that we purchased services in the past I now believe, and the auditor will either be here with me or will write a letter concurring with what I have to say, so that the City Council can continue to make those if they choose. And then, of course, there's funding sitting in the budget for that, albeit I know the council is looking for other funding that we talked about when we went through the preliminary budget process. And we can, I believe I can find a way to accommodate everything that we're looking at one way or the other.
Okay, thank you very much.
Your Honor?
Yes.
I wanted to comment on PennFest as well, and especially in light of Mr. Davich's remarks about his liability and so forth. I thought the most exciting thing I saw at PennFest was the BMX racers going up the ramp, flipping upside down on their bicycles, and then going down the ramp. And I want to report that they all had on helmets. But that was really fun. That was so exciting to watch. And they did 3 performances in front of Penn Cycle. So that was a great event. And and only a few wipeouts. And the oldest racer was 46. So,
Yes, City Manager.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, I'll make one other comment, and that is about PennFest. And I just want the public and everyone to recognize that that event was really made possible to the extent that it happened due to about a $10,000 grant that we applied for and got from Blue Cross and Blue Shield. Having said that, that's a one-time grant. And so, I know the expectations are for the city to have that kind of successful event in the future. And, if something like that is going to happen, there will have to be, some funding to make that possible. And
I will put it on the record that we fully expect, and I'm not saying coming from the city, but the people that live in and around Penn Avenue fully expect to have the exact same display and show next year, and we'll find the money. And if the city can help, that would be wonderful too, but we're not relying upon you or looking to the city to fund it. But it was too good an event and too beneficial to the community to just walk away from it and say it's a one-time shot.
Absolutely. I mean, I've heard nothing but really, really great things about that event.
mm-hmm.
Okay, anybody else?
Well, I have one other thing in regards to what Councilmember Sandal said is that she indicated that there was a 46-year-old driver, and I saw on the Richfield people or commoners Facebook page indicating kudos to the old guy, and I thought, God, that's cruel.
They were doing it in tandem. People going up the ramp
amazing.
and doing their tricks in tandem. And it was just amazing to watch. Yeah. So.
Okay, then. I ask then for council approve of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. City Manager for the consent calendar.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council. For those in the audience, those at home, the consent calendar contains several separate items which are acted upon by the City Council in one motion. Once the consent calendar has been approved, the individual items and the recommended actions will also have been approved, and no further action on those items will be necessary. Tonight we have a very short consent agenda. Item A is consideration of approval of resolution authorizing the acceptance of a community forest bonding reimbursement grant of $25,000 for the purchase and planting of new boulevard trees. Item B is consideration of approval of a resolution authorizing the city to enter into a trailway cooperative agreement with the Three Rivers Park District for a portion of 9 Mile Creek Regional Trail constructed as part of the 76th Street East project. Item C is consideration of approval of a resolution certifying the delinquent water, sanitary sewer, and storm sewer utility accounts to the county auditor. Item D is consideration of approval of resolutions appointing additional election judges and appointing high school student trainee election judges for the general election on November 6, 2012. And finally, consideration of approval of bid minutes for the East-West Connection Bicycle Routes project. And that would conclude tonight's consent calendar.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion is carried. Next item on the agenda is item number 5, which I will be taking. Item 5 is reconsideration of an amendment and adoption of an ordinance amending subsection 601.25 of the Richfield City Code relating to placement of waste containers. On September 11, 2012, the City Council adopted an ordinance amending Section 601.25 of the Richfield City Code. The city staff had requested the amendment in order to clarify wording in the ordinance that Hennepin County District Court found ambiguous. As a result of the court ruling, the city staff had not been enforcing the ordinance. Prior to adopting the ordinance, the City Council approved an amendment that would postpone enforcement of the ordinance until June 1st of 2013. After the meeting, the environmental health staff reminded the city attorney and the city manager that there is not an enforceable ordinance in place at the current time, and that as a result of the amendment, the city would be unable to enforce limits on the placement of containers until June of 2013. The city manager and city attorney believe that the council did not intend that result. The matter, therefore, is presented for reconsideration by the council. If approved by the council, the proposed ordinance would become effective 30 days after publication. The Public Safety Department intends to resume enforcement of the prohibition of containers being placed in front of houses because that is consistent with department practice for the last 30 years. With respect to containers located in side and rear yards, the department proposes to use warnings to educate the public that if containers aren't being kept immediately adjacent to the rear or side portion of the principal building, that is a violation, and the city will be issuing citations for violations in June 2013. This will give residents a period of time to make appropriate changes of their properties so that containers can be stored in enclosures or placed immediately adjacent to the building. And I see the city manager has something he wants to show us.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council. Again, I want to, because this is so important, I just wanted to bring this up one more time so everybody understands exactly what we're saying and what we're doing. The main issue that we were dealing with when we came to the City Council a couple of weeks ago to deal with this is the fact that the standard by which we were adjudicating whether or not garbage cans were appropriately placed was thrown out by an administrative hearing judge. And the important thing for folks to realize now when this ordinance goes into effect is that you cannot have garbage containers between the lot line of your house and the part of your house that's the furthest away from your lot line. In other words, in the past, what people were doing is if part of your house or your garage jogged out a little bit further, then the garbage can might be placed here, maybe sometimes in front of a garage or in some other kind of nook in the front of the house. That is not legal, and that will not be allowed to happen. So you cannot, no matter how the front of your house jogs out, you can't have the garbage container anywhere in front of the home with this ordinance. The part that we're dealing with that will be given a grace period till June are situations where for certain lots where you have, and I guess I'm going to ask the city attorney to kind of jump in and describe this while I point it out, but it's for lots where, for example, where a corner lot where you are going to put the container behind your house, but along with this ordinance as well, and I believe it has been in the past, you have to have it within so many feet or just adjacent to the building itself. And so, you can't put it out in your yard somewhere here or out to the side of your property here. It's got to be adjacent to the house, and we're giving people time to make whatever modifications they have to the building if they want to put cement pads down or whatever, so that it can accommodate placing the container next to the home. And Corinne, I don't know if you want to add anything more than that.
No, that's an accurate description.
So, again, this is something that, we've been dealing with for a long time. I get a lot of calls about this. I'm sure council members get a lot of calls about this. And we're trying to basically, no pun intended, clean it up once and for all. Not have garbage containers sitting out in front of homes. And I can drive through the community and I see some out there today. So, any questions for council members? Or one thing I will say is we'll get this information out again and make sure the public understands what the requirements are, and hopefully everybody will understand and comply with it.
Question? Is the diagram part of the ordinance? Because I think that's a very useful thing. Can it be?
It is not part of the ordinance, but we do have the technical ability to make it part of the ordinance. I know we have some figures and drawings in the zoning code.
Okay, I guess I would make that recommendation because I think that will be very helpful for people. And then staff, if there's a question, they can whip it out and say, this is what the ordinance shows. So. Okay,
what I'll do is make the motion and we can have more discussion if need be. By motion, I make the motion that we reconsider the adoption of an ordinance relating to storage and garbage, refuse, yard waste, recyclable containers, and amending subsection 601.25 of the Richfield City Code.
Second.
Okay. And I would be supportive. The only request I would have is that staff or legal counsel in some way amend that ordinance to reflect that this is as see Exhibit A or whatever it is.
Okay, any others?
Can we do that without voting on an amendment change, an amendment to it, or is it just part of it?
I'll make that a motion to amend it.
Yeah, because yours would come first then if we're going to
Yeah,
vote on
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Should we do that way? Okay.
All right, I'll move
And I
that.
second your motion.
Okay.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
No,
Okay.
now you got to, now you got to
Okay.
go to the main one.
We got to go to the main one again. Okay, so she amended the motion. Now we'll go back to reconsider the adoption of an ordinance relating to storage of garbage, refuse, yard waste, recyclable containers, and amending subsection 601.25 of the Richfield City Code and adding Exhibit A.
As amended, yeah, okay.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion is carried. Next motion is amend the proposed ordinance to provide for an effective date immediately after publication, and adopt an ordinance as amended relating to the storage of garbage refuse, yard waste, recyclable containers, and amending subsection 601.25 of the Richfield City Code.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passed. Next item is the city manager's report.
Mayor Pro Tem, the items that I was going to comment on got discussed during your city council discussion area. I was going to talk about the 4th of July and the social service agency kind of thing.
Before we close, I have one thing I'd like to add for the hats off to the city. Can we do that? Out of order?
He wants to hats off.
I have a good thing here.
We'll let you talk then.
All right.
Yeah.
I think we'll all like this. I know I will.
But do we need a motion to accept his report first, or?
No.
Oh, yeah. No?
Okay, okay.
No.
Go ahead, Fred.
I forgot to bring this up, and I've been working with Von Hansen Meat Company to come to Richfield, and I got a phone call last Friday night or last Saturday night from Mr. Von Hansen, and he is coming to Richfield with a franchise. He's going to let a franchisee come from Ember Grove and be in the store with Wellington's development on Lindale, and they've gotten their loan. The franchisee's got the loan to come here, and all they're trying to do now is come up with the basic agreement with the developer, and they want here really bad. So he said, and I could say that publicly. So they plan on being here.
What kind of, is it a meat market or,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
All right. Oh, super.
And they've got stores all over the metro area, and they're tough to get you to come to your community unless you give them something, and we give them a brand new building to work out of. So they're happy, and they're across the street from our municipal liquor store, which they like to be close to the liquor stores.
Good idea. Yeah, yeah.
So everything's working out, and I know Wellington will do what I think whatever it takes to get them, and looking forward to having them here.
Super.
Well, hats off to you, Fred, for doing that. Really appreciate it. Claims and payroll.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by aye.
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 Motion carried. Having no other items, I move to adjourn.
You did it. 29 minutes, broke your own record.